this afternoon session, we'll focus on the genesis and the current status of the reparations efforts in Evanston and look at how we, as people and communities of faith, can support these local plans as well as national efforts, both financially and otherwise. Our presenter today was instrumental in the city of Evanston taking steps towards reparations and is now active with both local and nationally focused reparations organizations. Robin Rue Simmons is the founder and executive director of First Repair, a new not-for-profit organization that advocates for local reparations nationally. She's the former 5th Ward alderperson for the city of Evanston, Illinois, where she led, in collaboration with others, the passage of the nation's first and to date only municipal funded legislation providing reparations based on Black citizens' experience in the aftermath of slavery. Ms. Rue Simmons is also a commissioner of the National African American Reparations Commission, or NARC, NAARC, and is a member of the Legislative Committee of NCOBRA. She's also previously served as a board member for the National League of Cities, National Black Caucus of Local Elected Leaders, as a board member for Evanston's Connections for the Homeless, and as president of the Evanston Black Business Alliance. So we're honored with her presence with us today. And Ms. Rue Simmons, we're looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you. I'd like to start in memory of Dr. Patricia Effiam and Pastor Zali Webb, two of our community faith leaders that played a really important role in the advancement of our local reparation initiative. I ask that we just honor them with a moment of silence and reflect for a moment on their significant contributions in our community. Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm really grateful to be here and join each of you in solidarity, learning, and commitment to reparations here specifically in Evanston. Special thank you to all of the members of the Faith, Justice, and Reparations Workshop Planning Team for organizing this very important series. Special thank you to Sarah Vanderwicken for your patience with me. Thank you to the entire interfaith community for being the first institution in our city to speak out in support of our reparations commitment and for your tangible support. I've said it before, not in this setting, but I believe the faith community is equipped to be the leader or a leader in reconciliation and redress for our past and ongoing injustices in Evanston. Since I envisioned and led the passing of our local reparation initiative in Evanston, there's been great interest in our city and beyond. And so initially I was going to speak only about where we're at and where we're going, but I was asked to talk a little bit about where this falls in the process of, or the goals of HR 40. So although we've made this historic introduction, it is, however, important to acknowledge the long history and pursuit of reparations for people of African descent in America. Black people have been fighting for liberty and justice and relief for our cruel and disparate conditions since we were kidnapped from West Africa and enslaved here in 1619. There are over 250 documented attempts at our uprising in the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries. In 1865, Union General Sherman ordered Special Field Order 15, allotting 40 acres of land to feed freed families. Shortly after, this was reversed by President Johnson. So not only did freed families not receive reparations with 40 acres and that mule, but white slave owners received reparations for freeing their slaves. So while many white families passed down generational inheritances, our community passes down a protracted and exhausting struggle for justice and our human rights. It is the work of many others that allow us this transformative season in history that we're experiencing right now. And for that, we should never forget those that have fought for reparations before us. Queen Mother Moore, Queen Mother Audley Moore, and our own Alderman Jourdain here in Evanston, and too many others to mention. The contemporary reparation movement for the Black community starts with the introduction of H.R. 40 by Michigan Congressman John Conyers in 1989. He was pushed and supported. It's important to note that he was supported by Reparations Ray Jenkins, who was a Detroit activist and COBRA member, and eventually many other advocates to introduce H.R. 40 and pass a commission to study slavery in America. The bill has been introduced every year since 1989. But recently, there have been two important advances since 1989, and an appropriate update to the bill in 2017, written by a NARC team led by our own Dr. Iva Carruthers, who is a Fifth Ward native, and Cam Howard, who has become a friend to Evanston. They rewrote the bill not to just study slavery, but to develop remedy proposals from the impact of slavery and its vestiges. Secondly, H.R. 40 passed the Judiciary Committee this past April for the first time in history in over 30 years. The bill had not been passed. At this point, the bill will still have to pass the House and the Senate or be passed by an executive order to become law. When that happens, a commission will have to be appointed and they will begin to study the impact of slavery. And after that, remedies will be developed and recommended. Additional legislative actions will be necessary after that. I believe this will happen in our lifetime. I'm really excited that our Congresswoman Jan Jakowski is an original co-sponsor of H.R. 40, along with 192 of her House colleagues. This is 3 times more the co-sponsors than H.R. 40 has had since 2019, when we passed our local reparations initiative in Evanston. Our Senators Duckworth and Durbin are both original co-sponsors of H.R. 40's companion bill, Senate Bill 40, introduced by Senator Cory Booker. You should know that we, the city of Evanston, have officially supported H.R. 40 since 2002, when Judge Lionel Jean Baptiste, he was then the Second Ward Alderman, led the passing of the city of Evanston's Resolution 43R02, slavery reparation. Let us acknowledge that the demand for reparations is not novel, but shamefully overdue. The genesis for Evanston reparations officially started with a legislative process I led in collaboration with many others in 2019. But it truly has been an evolution of insufficient attempts at justice in the Black community. In 2019, I concluded that based on our documented harm and sustained injury, reparations were the most appropriate legislative action to atone for Evanston's anti-Black policy and practices, most of which have been outlawed, but not repaired. Additionally, there are other anti-Black practices that are baked into the systems that are founded in exclusion and racism. In studying our data, our history, and our trajectory in 2019, it was a matter of fact that our Black-white racial divides were widening and our Black community population was steadily in a decline. The data only confirmed what we were experiencing, what I was experiencing personally and civically, and along with you in the community. Our racially segregated neighborhoods and friends leaving Evanston because of unaffordability, over-policing and Black residents' premature death, barriers to access information, wealth, and opportunity, inequitable representation on boards and committees, a continuing achievement gap, and I'm sure you see the theme here, like I did. We were celebrating our diversity while there were $46,000 between us in household income and 13-year life expectancy difference. After months of public feedback and meetings in 2019, the Equity and Empowerment Commission recommended the City Council pass reparations for Black residents. And in September of 2019, Evanston unanimously drew the same conclusion in support of reparations. It's November 25th of 2019 that the City of Evanston passed Resolution 126R19, and the work continues. And Cobra leader Willard Lett spoke in detail on the 5 components of reparations and where our program fits into reparations, and that it is in fact reparations. It's important to clear up some misinformation. Our first remedy initiative in Evanston is housing redress. And there are 2 important and necessary reasons why this is the first benefit. First, housing was the priority of the Black residents that participated in the discussion of our remedy direction. There, of course, were other recommendations, some outside of the purview of municipal government and others that may be studied as the work continues with the Reparations Committee. Second, we must have a specific harm for a viable case for reparations because we fully expect to be challenged. We have already had a threat of challenge. So it's important that there is a direct correlation to the remedy and the harm. And we have that. We have that found in anti-Black housing policy and zoning laws of 1919 that were enforced through 1969. And from those harms, we can begin to measure the impact and project the losses in the Black community. You can learn more about this case for reparations from Dino Robinson and his partner, Jenny Thompson, at Evanston History Center, and along with the Shorefront Legacy Center. The report should have been provided in this conference packet. We should be hopeful now that we've taken these first steps that we can do more. We've only allocated the first 4% of our reparations fund to the initial benefit. We have over $9 million remaining in incoming cannabis sales tax to deliver reparations, and there's nothing outlawing council from expanding that fund or other institutions from joining the city in commitment to reparations. Beneficiaries are expected to be selected this year. Reparations applications opened last week, or maybe it's been a bit more than a week ago. And in the first 5 days, we received over 100 applications. The applications will remain open until November 5th. And the city is providing office hours for applicants to come and get any type of support they need, whether it's uploading a document or help with the application in any way. Documents are available at the Evanston Library, at Shorefront Legacy Center, at the History Center, and many are easily accessible in our household, include birth certificates and school records. This program would not have been possible without the incredible dedication of our City of Evanston staff, Dino Robinson, Jenny Thompson, Shorefront Legacy Center, Evanston History Center, community members, including Reverend Dr. Neighbors, Alderman Holmes, Alderman Grover, Dr. Effiam. The list goes on, including the Evanston Community Foundation, other philanthropic partners and allies, the interfaith community, past and present reparations committee, our current chair, Alderman Braithwaite, the city council, and hundreds of residents that have participated. And so right now we're in a place where we are supporting the community through the process of application. We have a $25,000 direct benefit that will bring housing redress. It will bring wealth through home equity. And this is important because that is the area of harm that we have a viable case in Evanston. The benefit can be used for a home down payment. It can be used for any type of home improvement or to simply pay down your wealth. So it is definitely $25,000 of wealth that will be enjoyed by recipients that can be used in any way that they choose. We've seen examples of those that have applied that are looking to purchase their first home. An example of a $25,000 housing benefit could be used for a down payment. Based on the average income of our Black community here in Evanston, it's more likely that residents will use an FHA mortgage product or some other low down payment mortgage product backed by Freddie Mac, for example, being around 3% down payment. So this allows for a sufficient down payment, and the balance of that can be applied towards any type of home improvements. Other residents that already own homes are looking for support for deferred maintenance and other just in cosmetic improvements that they would like to enjoy. Nonetheless, $25,000 of wealth is reparative. Homeownership and those that own homes have a more likely path to building wealth no matter the community. So although this is insufficient as a total program, it is our first step in Evanston. It is one that has been certified, in fact, as reparations by the National African American Reparations Commission and acknowledged by other reparations leaders and followed by other cities across the nation in modeling what we've done in Evanston so far. The work is being led by our reparations committee. Again, it's chaired by Alderman Peter Braithwaite of the 2nd Ward. And our most important staff members really help bring operations to this program. And that is our Deputy City Manager, Kimberly Richardson, our Assistant to the City Manager and Analyst, Tashik Kerr, and Nicholas Cummings, our Corporation Counsel for the City Council. So our lead law professional or attorney at the City of Evanston support this work to make sure it continues viable, that we have a solid case if there is any sort of actual defense that we have to address. And we will continue the work. As stated, we've only set aside the first 4%, and our resolution calls for 3 areas specifically: housing, economic development, and education initiatives. So right now we have a solid case for our housing redress program. Further work will have to happen to develop an economic development case for reparations, and that work I'm sure will be supported by Dino Robinson and his team. As well as, it's important to note, we have the support of the African American Redress Network. They have not only sent letters of support for the work that we're doing, letters of support and partnership if we should have legal challenge or litigation. They would help the City of Evanston pro bono build a legal capacity in that case. It's important to note that the African American Redress Network is a partnership between the Thurgood Marshall Law Center, Howard Law School, and a Human Rights Center at Columbia University. This organization is led by Justin Hansford and Linda Mann, and they've played a very important role of support and capacity building for us, also working on expanding our impact study for reparations. Additionally, we continue to have the ongoing support and mentoring of both NARC and NCOBRA and other academics and experts across the nation, as well as those locally. An important addition to our reparations program here in Evanston is the support of the Evanston Community Foundation. We know that housing alone is not our only cause for repair here in Evanston, nor is it economic development. And as much as we are demanding redress even in education, that's not it alone. Based on the community feedback in 2019, and these documents are all available on the City of Evanston website, there were recommendations for health, not only trauma, but our physical health, cessation, which means, addressing our current policies that are anti-Black, satisfaction, which means, restoring the dignity of our people, beginning to acknowledge our history in truth and in full in ways like historic markers. And there was a list of other recommendations that were given that are outside of the purview of the city of Evanston or outside of the goals of that resolution. And so with that, there has formed a Reparations Stakeholder Authority of Evanston. It is important that there is a Black body that takes in the information of remedy and develops and recommends proposals. So this Black-led organization, the Reparations Stakeholder Authority, is currently led by Dino Robinson and Reverend Dr. Michael Neighbors and a group of other leaders. They will begin the work of hearing from the community on what forms of redress do we want to see that's outside of the purview of the municipal government. And so where the Evanston Community Foundation played a very important role in seeding this work, they seeded the fund. They have, they are operating as a fiscal agent of this entity without any operating fees to the entity until they are their own separate 501c3. Additionally, the Evanston Community Foundation recently awarded the Reparations Stakeholder Authority a grant to begin to operate and function as an independent body and do the work of reparations for the Black community in Evanston. So there's still work developing there, and that leadership and that organization will be made up of appointees of historically Black organizations in town, as well as other Black leaders in town and residents in town as well. This separate fund allows the opportunity to expand the redress in Evanston. There's been talk about all forms of reparations as we have begun this work. There's been talk about cash payments. And I'll talk a little bit about cash payments because that seems to even make the news. Know that the work that we're doing is not in opposition to cash payments. But we do have to do the work in line with our case for reparations and that our law department is prepared to defend. Additionally, we are not the federal government, and taxation would be a requirement of a $25,000 benefit. And therefore, for all of those reasons, our first benefit is a direct benefit for housing. I will say that the last reparations committee included myself, Alderman Rainey, Alderman Braithwaite. We were successful in getting a partnership with the Economic Security Fund and the Family Independence Initiatives in delivering a cash benefit program to reparation eligible residents here in Evanston. So there are still residents today that receive a $300 unrestricted cash benefit if they are reparation eligible from a fund from this partnership between FII and the Economic Security Fund. So we support that. We also support HR 40 as mentioned. So as we look at the work that we're doing locally, we also have to acknowledge that this local initiative or any local initiative is not going to be enough to actually repair the racial wealth gap, that it is a first step. It is a tangible and it is a measurable first step. It is in fact reparations, but we have led this work in Evanston always with a nudge to other institutional accomplices here in town and beyond, and also to our Congress people to pass HR 40 so that the Black residents in Evanston and those in America can begin to receive redress. And so we continue on. Our meetings, our public meetings are open to the public, and we generally have pretty robust participation from community members, a lot of interest outside of the community. and we will continue to do the work. Right now, I would say the committee is very much focused on getting these initial 16 benefits to reparation recipients. We expect that award to happen in this November, and disbursement will be scattered, determining on how recipients choose to use their benefit, whether they're using it for a down payment of a home. Of course, they'll need time to identify a home, become mortgage qualified, and so on. Others may just simply pay down their mortgage balance. It's also important to note that we fully acknowledge and are aware of much of our harm is also due to financial institutions. Predatory lending has played a devastating role in the Black community, and other barriers to accessing capital and mortgage products and other financial products. With that, we have been working since we landed on housing to find a lender that will provide a companion product, a portfolio of financial products that can be a value add to this initial housing benefit. In addition to adding value to the program, there is a development of a resource guide that will provide a list of Black contractors, residential contractors that can be used, Black realtors, Black closing attorneys, and other Black businesses that can support the reparation program, so that there is a value add of increased business revenue to the Black community while we are receiving the increased wealth through home equity. So there is no belief that this initial program is enough, that it is sufficient, but it fully is in the direction of repair and redress for the harms in Evanston, while we hope that other institutions will join us in doing their part as we continue to expand the work and the commitment here in Evanston. I think I have, yeah, so with that, I think I wanted to leave space for questions. I was hoping there would be more questions that I could add to this conversation, and I would be happy to do so. I usually like to end with what you can do to support the work of reparations, but I understand that that is an actual formal conversation after this, so I will hold that comment and maybe join you as you prepare to have that discussion on what you can do to expand and improve the work that we're doing here in Evanston and nationally.
Great, thank you so much, Robin. And we're going to go ahead and take questions. So Lynn Kendall, who's on our team, has been watching the chat, and she'll be the one posing those questions.
We have several questions already. The first one, if I give money to the City Reparations Fund, will it reduce the dollars that the city has promised, or will it add to the amount that is distributed?
That is a great question. Thank you. We have already begun to receive funds, and it is adding to the commitment from the City of Evanston. So Resolution 126R19, if you want to get familiar with it, states $10 million from recreational cannabis sales tax, and all other dollars are in addition to that commitment from the city.
Very good. Here's the next question.
And they are tax exempt. I should add that as well. So the City of Evanston dollars are tax exempt, as well as the Evanston Community Foundation funds are also tax exempt.
How much impact did input from the Black community in Evanston have in deciding on these three main ways of reparations? What was the process of gathering input from the Black community in Evanston?
So it was fully directed by the Black communities that participated. So I will say now that it's been a big story, there's a lot more engagement than there was in 2019. Understandably, Black folks, sometimes maybe we're hopeless and we don't believe that it can happen, or maybe we're unable to participate. But there were there were residents that participated in 2019 that gave recommendations. Those recommendations were pared down and divided into categories. First of all, what's within the purview of the city of Evanston? There were recommendations including a Fifth Ward school, Northwestern giving free tuition to Black residents, and other recommendations that were outside our purview. Those are other institutions. But the Black community weighed in 2019 by way of several public community meetings. There were public meetings by the Equity Empowerment Commission in April, May, and June. In July, there were 2 separate meetings specifically on hearing what forms of reparations do we want to see here in Evanston. And then the process continued with public meetings and Equity and Empowerment Commission until the 2019, September of 2019, when the city council took it from there to pass reparations and fund it with cannabis sales tax. So the Black community weighed in. Fortunately, now that there's so much awareness to the work that is happening, more Black residents will weigh in as the work continues from here on.
Our next question. If someone gets funds from Evanston, will that limit what they could get in the future when federal funds become available?
So that's a great question. So the federal funds have, first of all, the commission has not even been passed, but this is independent of any other government body. So it will not limit you. These are City of Evanston dollars. The good news and what we hope will happen with the local reparations movement is that when federal funds become available, there'll be some infrastructure in place already, a convened stakeholder group, Black residents that are already involved and engaged that can help guide how federal dollars could come down and be dispersed at a local level. But the answer is no, it will not interfere.
Now, you already said that these payments are tax exempt, correct?
Correct.
All right, so our last question then is this. A lot of the public flack that you are getting seems to be a result of your not showing a larger plan for reparations into which the housing initiative fits, a plan that includes education, economic redress, healthcare, etc. These areas do seem to be more difficult to tease out the details, but seeing the larger picture might allow folks eligible for reparations to see where their needs will be met. Could you please comment on this?
Absolutely. And I agree. The needs are broad and multifaceted. The harms are in every area of our community. And it seems that just this one program is insufficient. And I will agree that it is. But I think more energy should be put into the other institutions like Northwestern Medical System, Amita Health, North Shore, Northwestern University. The District 65 seems to be doing really good work right now. But how can we work together as a community to come up with more of a comprehensive look at redress for our Black residents? The city of Evanston is doing its part, beginning to do its part. And my only hope is that now more partners will join in the work that we're doing and help expand in the areas where they are responsible and help push Evanston, the municipal government, to even do better with our first $10 million. We're committed to do this work for 10 years. My hope is that future city councils expand it, that it is passed into perpetuity. But I think that's more of the conversation. Not so much what we're not doing right, but what other institutions can do to help even support the work that's happening in Evanston. Northwestern has brilliant scholars and researchers and resources that could help us with our work. And I think that this is a community initiative where we should be working together as a community. And I can appreciate residents that are not satisfied with this initial program, but I hope they remain hopeful that there is more to come. I will see to it there's more to come. Although I've retired as alderman, I serve on the committee and I'm fully committed to improving the work that we're doing here in Evanston.
Jackie, do we still have time for more questions?
Yes, go ahead and take a couple more.
Very good. Here's a question. I get that housing is the harm that can be documented and the place to start. What harms are the priorities for the Black community?
Well, right now the priority is housing, and that's why we've taken this first step with the housing remedy. But we've seen that there's over policing. The way we were able to restrict the cannabis revenue was because there were 71% arrests in the Black community while we were 16% of the population. So we know there's a harm in over policing. We know that there are health inequities and disparities, a life expectancy gap of 13 years between Black and white Evanston. We are all familiar with the achievement gap and the goal for a Fifth Ward school that, lost a referendum several years ago, and there's a new movement that looks like we'll see a Fifth Ward school. So housing has been the first. I would say they're all a priority. I'll just say that housing has been the first action that's been taken.
All right. This next question is, what do you think the faith community could do to work with the entire community to increase understanding of to increase understanding, financial and other support? When you said the faith community could have a role, is that just in terms of the faith leaders speaking out or more than that?
Well, it's more than that. So the faith leaders could speak out on behalf of the faith community. I should have started with greetings from Faith Temple Church, where my pastor is Pastor Carlos Moody. I grew up and was raised and educated in the faith community. So more of what you're doing today could be how the faith community supports in holding, talks and education, small groups, giving feedback to the reparations committee on what you're hearing from the community. Of course, giving in a tangible way is always helpful. You have two ways that you can give officially, either through the RSAE or the City of Evanston. And you can even begin to do your own independent forms of reparations and hear from your congregations. So the opportunities are endless. Unfortunately, the injuries are endless as well. The divides, the racial divides and harms are broad. So you can either give, you can continue educating the broad community, your memberships and the friends of your membership, as well as partnering with the City of Evanston in giving them feedback that you collect to the Reparations Committee, and the same thing for the Reparations Stakeholder Authority of Evanston. I should also add that giving to organizations that support the movement for reparations. There are historic organizations, there are newer organizations that are beginning to do reparations work that's beyond equity work, and those are other areas of redress as well. But I would say most important for the faith community is keep us in prayer. Keep the community reconciliation in prayer, the leaders that are doing the work in prayer, the residents that have been harmed in prayer, those that are disgruntled and not feeling this is adequate in prayer, because they're also not wrong. They're also right. Everybody is right in this scenario, that it is not enough. It's not happened soon enough. It's not happening quick enough. And we need more redress. So I would ask that you also add the Black community and the goals for reparations to your prayer list as you are delivering prayer on behalf of the community.
Very good. It looks like the last question we have at the present time is, how do we keep these efforts led by our Black community?
The way that you do that is you make sure you're inviting Black residents to support and lead. Oftentimes in our community in human and social services, there are practitioners or academics, but not necessarily those that have experienced the harm that the organization is leading in. So make sure that Black residents don't necessarily have to be technically a leader. You know, we're all a leader in some right. You know, God is not a respecter of person. And so I believe that Black residents that have a lived expertise, and we all do, should be invited to these conversations and as decisions are being made.